What's up, guys? My name is Aisha, and this channel, we like to talk about locks a lot, y'all. The health of locks, what they look like, all that good stuff. But today, I want to talk about a subject that, fortunately, y'all, I've been blessed not to have personally experienced this, but I know that it's definitely a thing. So stay tuned. All right, y'all. I want to talk about what in the world to do when, if, how, whatever, if a lock falls out. Okay? Like, do we panic? Do we try to reattach it? Do we cry a little bit in our own little corner? Right? Like, what do you do? Do you immediately call your loctician? What do you do? What do you do? So here are some tips. I want to give you some tips on how to avoid breakage and how to avoid that hair falling out. And I'm also give you some things that say, hey, if your hair does fall out, these are things you can do to help it reattach, to help it grow back in a way that it doesn't look like a lock actually fell out, different things like that. Okay, so how to avoid locks falling out in general. Now, I will tell you, my background is I've had my locks for 4 years now, which we still going strong. Never have I ever had a lock fall out. Ever. Okay? And hopefully that will never occur. But I can tell you some things that I've done, my loctician has done to help to avoid that. One, I make sure that I regularly maintain my hair. Like the longest time I've ever gone between hair appointments or retightens, either myself or my loctician, is 8 weeks. And y'all, that was at like the height of COVID when it had just shut down and we were going crazy. And you know, we thought it was gonna be a 2-week thing and it ended up being a 2-year thing. Like it was crazy mayhem. Okay, and I literally didn't have a locking tool. I didn't have anything. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to get this and I'm gonna have to figure it out on my own with the aid, of course, YouTube. Okay, YouTube is a fabulous resource. Okay, and so for me, it was like, I know that I had to keep up with my retaining. So you know what I did? I got a tool and I DIY'd that sucker. Now, y'all, I am always team DIY because I have been doing my hair since I was a kid. And I mean, like, before I even was a teenager, I loved doing my hair and I didn't mind it at all. And I would figure it out. And this was before YouTube was a thing. This is before we had tutorials on everything under the sun. And so maintaining my locks was something that I knew that I wanted to be able to do. That's one would determine the lock size, right? And how my hair was locked as well. Because I knew that I had to do interlock just because the amount of exercising that I do, and I actually like to swim. So I knew that I was gonna have slippage, my hair texture, right? But also I was like, okay, this doesn't seem like it's too crazy trying to interlock my hair, okay? And so that is something I do to avoid anything coming out, is I make sure to maintain my tightenings. Also, when you're maintaining your tightenings, right? Okay, so right now I'm definitely due in like a week or so. So my hair is just, you can see, it's just super fuzzy, which is fine with me. Like, I really don't care. But when my hair needs retightening, you can see, you know, this much, that much, whatever it is at the root, that are just loose strands. And y'all, when you are pulling, manipulating, doing all kinds of stuff to your hair, when your hair gets heavy and it's just hanging on to those strands, it's not as strong as this. I like to think of this as like a rope, right? It's one of those ropes that, you know, it ain't going nowhere, that you gotta saw down to actually cut in between. It's like that. And I think of when my hair starts to grow up as little strings that are kind of pulled together, right? If you tie them up in a rope, they're going to be super strong. But if you leave them loose, they're going to be a little less. So making sure to stay with the retighteners. Also, keeping your hair out of your hands. Man, y'all, I do this all the time. I sit here and do this. You know, I sit here and do this. Now, mostly I'm doing this in the back to look for lint so I can pull it out. But I have to tell myself, you should keep your hands out of your head. Because too much tension, too much rubbing, just like when you see a surface that you have rubbed a lot, you have touched a lot, whatever, it's discolored, right? It maybe have a little dent or groove in it from where things have been placed on it over time. And the same thing happens with your hair. If you sit here and you pull this long enough, it's gonna get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Same thing, just little things over time. So making sure to keep your hands out of your head, okay? Another thing is, if you keep your hands in your head, you never ever twirl it. Okay, so my daughter, love her to death, she's really young, and she got her locks when she wasn't even double digits yet, but she got her locks, and one of the biggest things is that she loves to play in her hair, and so she would do this. And she would always do it around the hairline, right? Where your hair is already probably more fine, more thin, more sensitive, whatnot. Usually people don't have super, super thick hairlines, and that's where you can get in trouble. And so when you're sitting there twirling and twirling and twirling, the last thing you want, y'all, listen, if this one were to come out, it would leave a giant spot in my head, and that's what I don't want, because if it's coming out, usually it is coming out from very close to the root, so you can't just reattach it. You can't, it's just a puff right there. So the best thing you can do is try to hide it, keep your head kind of tilted forward at all times, things like that, which I know you don't want to do. So making sure not to twirl your hair. Okay, now things you can do after the fact. So if your hair is just falling out, you don't know why, I would definitely check with your loctician, check with your doctor, different things like that, because sometimes your hair is falling out and you're doing everything right, and it can be something internal that I don't know about, you didn't even know about, your doctor didn't even see coming, things like that. Okay, also postpartum shedding, y'all, I wish once you got locks that postpartum shedding wasn't a thing, but it is. So it doesn't matter if you have hair on your head, there is a thing, and it's postpartum shedding, and usually it occurs about 3 months after giving birth, somewhere in there, like 0 to 3 months. But usually it just happens, and then all of a sudden you're like, where are my edges? It happened to me. It was like, and this was before I even had my edges. They went bye-bye. They like left town. They was like, we'll see you later, girl. We'll come back in like 6 months, but we gonna go on a vacation, okay? My hairline was like all the way back here, and it was dreadful. I hate, like, my hair was like, oh my god, I have no hair in the front. To the point where people were like, oh my god, you really do have like some serious postpartum shedding. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you have locks, natural hair, it doesn't matter what kind of hair. If you have hair in your head, it can happen to you. So all my mamas out there who just had a baby, who about to have a baby, whatnot, just be still. Be still. Save those locks so you could possibly retach it. And that's another thing I was going to get at. If your locks do fall out, if you have a lock that can fall out or whatever, make sure to ask your loctician about reattaching it, because what can happen is one of two things. You tell them to reattach it, they wait for as long as it takes to have enough hair to catch onto it to reattach, or they're going to simply put that new growth into a different lock. And if you want that lock back in your head, that's not going to work very well. So make sure you're very vocal about having your locks reattached or not. Either way, you need to let your loctician know, guys, so you can put them back. I know a lot of people have done it, have reattached it, and then a lot of people have said, man, it's in the middle of my head, I can care less, let me go ahead and combine that hair with another lock or another couple of locks, and that works well too. Which brings me to another point. If your lock is getting thin, if it's looking like it's hanging on for dear life, and you just don't know how much life it has left, combine locks, okay? I know that we all have our beautiful period pattern, and we don't want anything to compromise that or whatnot. But if it's a difference between holding on to that lock and possibly developing a balding spot, or attaching it to the sister lock, sister lock, okay, attaching it to the neighboring lock, and it just be slightly bigger, like I do. Let's see if I can find it for you guys. There was one lock I had, and it was simply my hair was starting to thin in a certain spot. And so my loctician, and she told me before she did it, before she goes on combining locks, and she combined the two locks, because she literally said, if I don't, I could lose my lock. And like I said, I am not married to a very specific grid pattern, and it's okay if it's not exact. It's okay if it's not perfect. Y'all, I can't find it. Oh gosh. And it was thin too. After a while, I did see it, because at first I was like, it's fine, it's fine. And then I'm like, oh, the combined lock is barely the size of my other locks, and they are together. So that lock was definitely something that was happening. But regardless, if you have thinning locks, or if you notice that your hair isn't quite as full as it used to be, I would take a deep dive in looking at what is happening within your body internally as well, because not always the answer is, oh well, you need to hydrate your locks, or you need to stop playing in your hair. Sometimes it is, well, there's something chemically imbalanced in your body, and you need to balance that so that your hair can thrive. And so those are kind of different things. So what I would say is, y'all, there's no need to panic, okay? No need to panic. It happens. It is not the end of the world. Now, if you are not in postpartum and you know you don't have anything going on with your body, like crazy things going on with your body, and your locks are just falling out, you need to take a moment, okay? And you need to figure out what in the world's going on, because it can be, although I don't want you to panic and we don't want to panic, it can be very disheartening and very just shocking to see a drop and it be a piece of your hair. It's wild. It's not like, because we don't get to shed anymore. Like, it's all up in here. So to see an entire lock just fall and be sad, it can be very disheartening, okay, y'all? So making sure, take these little tips. If you do any of those things and your locks are falling out, maybe look at that. If you are a new mama out there and you are dealing with that postpartum shedding, honey, get some nice headbands. That is my best advice. Get some nice headbands, or get some nice hats, because at least you can cover up for a little bit until that hair does come back. But make sure to save those locks. Don't get rid of them, because you can reattach them later. All right, y'all. So, moral of the story, don't panic. Find answers. Figure out what's going on. And if it's as simple as you just get your hands out your head, think about that lock falling down, and do you want that to happen again? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you've ever experienced a lock falling out, please let me know. Let me know why it fell out, how you felt when it fell out. Any crazy stories, I want to hear them all. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.